Whatever you focus on excessively in the outside world has the power to control you. The outside world is constantly trying to take our attention away from the inner spirit within ourselves. There's so many things in the outside world that are vying for our attention constantly, and the whole aim of it, energetically, is to steal that attention that rightfully belongs to our inner being. You start believing that this thing or that situation is such a big deal, when really it's just a reflection of the inner state and can be seen at the source within instead of through the outer reflection. And this way, we can see the real truth and dissolve the whole thing. But what you really want is not out there. Remember this. Whenever I focus inward, the spirit is happy, and I'm in balance, and I'm connected with a divine universe, the source of the whole reflection that is the outside world. But whenever my intention and soul focus is directed outward onto an object or person or place or thing or situation, then I don't realize that this thing is just a reflection of something within myself. And as I move further and further outside of myself and onto this outside thing, I become more out of balance. And I become a slave to this thing, and a slave to the outside world. This is why a person seeking ultimate freedom, ultimate love, and ultimate liberation has to go inwards. Because you can't find it out there. It doesn't exist out there. If I only had this relationship, if I only had this thing, if I only had this person's attention, then I would be happy. Then I would feel good. Oh no, it's the other way around. Always keep your attention drawn inwards, and you will see that things are drawn to you naturally without any effort. What you need in your life will come to you, and what you don't need will dissolve. Ultimately, we don't need anything in this life to be happy and joyful. We come here to experience life and situations and people and things, and then dissolve back into spirit. When you have your attention drawn inwards, you will not be out of balance. You cannot be enslaved by an outside thing. This leads me to believe that the old indigenous societies that were filled with spirituality and wisdom were all doomed to collapse and be taken over for the reason that humanity needed to ascend and evolve into a new chapter, and also for the reason that these societies may have become attached to their superpowers of the mind and magnificent creations. In other words, they became a slave to something outside of themselves. There are two ways to focus inward. One is by focusing on the inner being, the true self, and the true spirit within. The other way is by focusing on the ego, the false self, what it wants, and the outward appearance, the body, and the self-created image, as well as the stories and mind stuff that make up a person's false identity. Both ways of inner focus will actually magnetize energy and people towards you. But the first way is the true way, and the second way is the false way. The first way of connecting within uses the spirit to connect to the divine and is sustainable to infinity. And the second way uses the false conditioning of the world to try to build up the ego self. And this method of connecting within is constantly breaking down. So it needs constant reinforcement. The first way to connecting within to the divine leads to self-realization. And the second way of connecting within to the ego leads to narcissism and self-destruction. Let's use the example of celebrities. They are fascinating entities because they're like pyramids. They draw massive amounts of energy towards themselves, kind of like pyramids or crystals. They created this by focusing intensely inwards towards their talents, either by the inner being or by the ego. This creates two types of famous people. One that is grounded and focused on their inner being, and so they're unattached to their image, and they actually don't need that fame. The second type of famous person is the one that becomes so elated, so attached and narcissistic and ungrounded by their fame, because their inward focus is actually on their ego, which eventually leads to self-destruction. We've seen that type of celebrity many times. I use the example of famous people because they're unique in that they are entities that attract a lot of energy towards themselves on a collective level, and a vast majority of people aspire to this. People either want money or fame or both, or that's what they think they want. Actually, what people want is to be free, boundless, and blissful, to be divinely connected. But they think this thing is tangible and can be found in the outside world. So they work and work to get that elusive thing that they are constantly seeking. Unlike a game of hide and seek, they never actually find that thing anywhere in the outside world and either end up playing hide and seek with the outside world their entire life, or eventually figure out that this elusive thing that they're constantly chasing in fame or money or love or possessions actually can't be found in the outside world at all. And in fact, that gold mine is sitting within themselves the whole time.